Hello and welcome to Stork'd, the podcast, in which we talk about all things family, especially the ways families are built and how we choose to define them. This is your host, Julia. I am a solo mom by choice, and I love talking about families. And I'm really excited about this next episode, guys. I was scrolling one day, I think about a year ago, maybe not quite that long ago, and I found this reel from this gentleman who said, I understand so many people in the LGBTQ plus community are estranged from their family. You don't have somebody to be your family. And so if you are going to a wedding or another important event and you need a family member, I will be that family member. I will stand in for you. I will be your stand-in dad. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is something really special. And it turns out that that's not just one simple little reel. It is a movement to create stand-in families. In fact, it's called Stand-in Pride. And Daniel, the founder, has created this enormous movement globally of people who raise their hand and say, I need somebody to be part of my life in this way. Maybe it's small, maybe it's attend Thanksgiving or Christmas. I've got nowhere to go for Christmas. Or maybe it's something really significant like a wedding. And other people who raise their hands say, I will stand in for you. I will be your family member. I will love you through this. It's just this incredible network of people supporting one another in the moments that would normally be occupied by one's family member. I'm really excited for you to hear everything he's up to and hear the many ways that people can create a chosen family and can connect in this way with one another and support one another. It's really just this most beautiful thing. If you love this episode as much as I do, help me with a couple things. Please review Stork'd. It helps us get more listeners. Please sign up for our newsletter. It's another place that we talk about families. And so if you prefer to see written news or real-time news, that's the place to go. And share this with a friend, because you never know that somebody might be feeling a lot of loneliness or a lack of family in their life. And maybe they could use somebody to stand in for them. Here is Dan. All right, Dan, thank you so much for joining Stork'd. Stork'd is a podcast that focuses on all things family and family building, and you have such a cool way of thinking about family. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
By way of introduction, do you mind telling our audience a little bit about who you are and just letting us get to know you a little bit?
Well, my name is Dan. I was born and raised here in East Tennessee. I'm just outside of Knoxville. I'm the father of 2 adult children, and I now have 6 grandchildren as of last Monday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm a hairdresser by trade. I've been in the salon business for 25 years. I've been with my current husband for 24 years. We will celebrate our 5th wedding anniversary on April 8th, so in just a few weeks. And I'm the founder of Stand-in Pride, a newly formed nonprofit organization that helps connect members of the LGBTQ plus community with other members and allies for emotional support and to physically stand in at live events, such as weddings or graduations. Basically a safe space to find chosen family.
Yeah. Okay. So I love that. I love the idea of standing in when somebody has a gap in their family life for many reasons. And we'll go into that. We'll go into why somebody might need you or another member of the community to stand in. But you mentioned a couple things that I want to follow up on. The first is that you're a recently designated nonprofit organization, but you've been around for some time. Do you want to take us back to the origin stories of Stand-in Pride?
Sure. Stand-in Pride, we just turned 3 years old on January 29th. I started out creating content on TikTok, and just last year kind of moved over to Instagram as well. But I just made a video 3 years ago, back in January of 2021, offering to be a stand-in dad for LGBTQ plus couples whose parents couldn't or wouldn't attend their wedding. And so that video wasn't hugely viral, but it gained enough attention that the comments were just filled with other parents saying, oh, I would do that. I want to do that too. But also members of the community that were saying, I'm not getting married, but I would love to have somebody in my life, somebody to check on me sometimes. So I started looking at options. How can we make this work for everybody? and decided a Facebook group, a private Facebook group would be the best way to connect because you couldn't really make connections in, the comment section of a video. So that's when I created the first Facebook group.
And I've been checking out your Facebook groups. They are not small. How many members do you
They're
have in your
not.
groups?
I honestly haven't checked lately, but like the original group, Stand in Pride International, got like 65,000 members. I think total around the world, we're close to like 250,000 members.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you have 250,000 members of people who are saying, I either need somebody in my life to show up for me as a family member might, or I want to do that on behalf of somebody else.
Correct.
So, what does it mean to show up as a family member? What is lacking for somebody who says, please come here, please participate with me? What does family member mean in this context? You've given an example of showing up at a wedding. What are some other
Right.
examples?
Some of the most touching examples that I've witnessed. And honestly, the groups are so large now, I don't actually see everything like I used to because I have some amazing volunteers that help with moderating and everything like that. But we had a young trans man who was going to a job interview and couldn't tie a tie. The dads just jumped in and somebody taught him how to tie his tie on FaceTime. We had a young person applying to college, and some moms chipped in and helped her fill out her college applications. Things that, a lot of times, if you have family members that you kind of would take for granted. I've seen people asking for help with a recipe. My mom used to make this for me, and, we're estranged, and I want to make this for my fiance or something like that. So it can be such simple little things that a community can offer this person who doesn't have anybody else. And I want to point out too that when I started the first Stand in Pride group, it was 2021. So we were still very much reeling from the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I think it took a toll on those that were estranged from their family because, it was even more isolating than they already were because then they were cut off from what little community they had for, months at a time. So I think it just all kind of come about at the right time when it was really needed.
Yeah, that's really important because you might say, okay, this is just a little thing, tying a tie, sharing a recipe, applying for college. You might even say, well, I thought family was bigger than that. But what I'm hearing you say to some extent is that the big important way in which family creates meaning is in the little moments.
In my opinion, that's how it is. I mean, we get so many during the holidays. Even we get so many people offering a seat at their Thanksgiving dinner or their Christmas celebration or Hanukkah, whatever they celebrate. We have to organize those into post threads because they fill up the group feed. It's just overwhelming, like thousands of invitations of saying, I've got this many seats at my table and you're welcome to attend. And so I think I've often said Stand in Pride can be whatever you need it to be at the time you need it. So it's not just weddings. It's not just, one thing. It can be so many things for so many different people.
I really like that.
Yeah.
I think the pandemic is such a good example of that feeling of isolation and loneliness that so many of us shared, in some cases for the first time. If you're accustomed to being a member of a community or a member of a family, the pandemic it was this moment where we all sort of said, wait a minute, I cannot have those tangible connections in the same way that I'm accustomed to them. But my understanding is that there are many people who live that same isolation, that same lack of connection generally. And sometimes, or maybe not even sometimes, that can happen in a higher percentage in the LGBTQ community. Can you talk to us a little bit about what might be causing estrangement, loneliness, isolation, lack of connection in this community?
Yeah. And this is just my opinion. I think a lot of it comes down to trust. We don't know, especially in my experience in talking with and interacting with a lot of people in the trans community, they don't know who to trust. And so it's very difficult for them to make friends, even. So a lot of, I have people even, they're like, I don't know if I can even trust an ally. I don't know if I can trust somebody who says they're an ally. So I feel like a lot of members that are joining our groups are just kind of sitting back and watching. And they're just kind of getting a feel for it just because they're not sure that they can trust anybody. And I understand that because where I live here in a very red state, I'm almost 50 years old, and I'm still very cautious about who I share certain things with about my personal life. And so I think that limits us from, normal interactions that you would normally have, even just meeting a stranger on the street and striking up a conversation. I'm an introvert, so I couldn't imagine doing that. But for the general population, I understand that's a thing, but not for me.
I'm a northerner, so I also don't understand it. I believe it's a thing in the South.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably more of a Southern thing. But I think that just limits the possibilities of, interacting with people to build a friendship that could eventually, turn into chosen family, the natural progression of it. So Stand in Pride kind of filters that out for people and gives them a safe space to interact with people and kind of get to know them online first. I hate to even compare it, but it's similar to dating. You kind of get to know somebody online before you cross over into meeting them in real life.
Yeah. And the word safety that you've mentioned feels really important here.
Yes, very much so. And I put reminders in the group occasionally, this is a beautiful place, but please remember that you're still on the internet. So we do everything that we can to maintain a safe space, but people do get in that shouldn't be there. We've never had an issue, but people just with negative attitudes sometimes will sneak in and they think it's something besides what it is. Some people in the community think it's a dating app. Yeah. So there's some confusion, okay, and it's typically just a misunderstanding, but we do our best to maintain the safe space. So I have tons of moderators who, around the clock, if somebody reports something, we're on it really fast.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. We started with weddings, and that's frankly how I first got to know you. You said, I saw a reel where you said, I'm happy to stand in if anyone doesn't have a family member who's willing or able to attend your wedding. And then I think there was a follow-up reel where you said, I've done so many of these. How many weddings have you attended as a stand-in person?
Not many.
Yeah.
I've done probably so many of these videos,
Okay.
is what I meant by that. But I've actually only attended 3 weddings and was only a stand-in dad once for one of those weddings. So I've not gotten a lot of opportunities based on, I get asked, but I can't always travel. And that's been, the problem. And that's the beauty of Stand in Pride is I can almost every time find somebody within driving distance of the wedding. So it works out. And I'm still a little sad that I didn't get to go, but somebody else gets to, stand in my place. So yeah, I hope eventually, like with this new app, I hope that becomes my job and I work for, the nonprofit organization and get to do that more.
Yeah. I bet that's really special.
Yeah, it is. And those videos on social media get the most attention. Like I've tried other ways of getting the word out about Stand in Pride, but when there's a wedding involved, it just seems like it just really touches everybody's heart. So I tend to kind of lean on that and then explain later, we're more than just weddings.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a moment, it's a very meaningful moment in your life, and it's a pretty universal experience. I've never been
Right.
married, and who knows if that'll ever happen for me, but I've attended a number of weddings, and what I mean by that is the universality doesn't have to be your specific wedding. We all can understand having a
Right.
big life moment and not having somebody available to support us through it. or attending a big life moment and witnessing that lack of whatever. I'll tell you a story, actually, and I hope my friend is okay with me telling this story. No names, of course. One of my best friends in the whole world was estranged from her family for a short period of time when she got married to her wife. And at the time of her wedding, her parents were refused to attend. And there was this moment that I probably will tell you that every time I share it, it makes me cry, but I'm going to hold it together for right now. When her wife's dad at the father-daughter dance grabbed her hand and grabbed both of them. And so all three of them were on the dance floor. And I tell you, every one of us was like I've got
Oh,
chills and I'm about to start sobbing.
yeah,
And so to witness that moment where somebody might have otherwise had a hole in
yeah,
their life experience, I don't get a father-daughter dance, have that replaced in a different but very sweet, tender way was one of the
yeah,
most beautiful things I've yet to witness. And so when I saw Stand in Pride, I had that like, this is what you do.
yeah. And I think that's one thing that's one reason that, like you said, it's universal. And that's why the movement of Stand in Pride has gone global
Yeah,
because no matter what language you speak, no matter where you were raised or anything, you still understand that. Like, as a human being, we still understand those special moments where we want people that care about us to be there with us.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you mentioned the pandemic as one of the drivers of feeling disconnected. Right now, the political landscape for me is making it hard to connect, even with some of the people I used to connect with. I'm a Jewish woman and thinking about sharing Passover, it has a different meaning in today's political landscape. Are you seeing that some of the intensity around laws against trans people or the intensity around what's coming up with the election is driving more and more people to need this kind of connection in their lives?
I don't know. Like, I can't say for sure that is the cause. I do think that it causes more discourse between family units, especially if you come from very conservative families. You're more likely coming out to be estranged or disowned by your family. So, yeah, I guess in a way it's getting worse, but it's also like the political climate is tearing our community apart because there are such, polarized opinions, based on things happening in the world. And that's scary for me. It's very scary because when we start tearing the little community that we have apart, I'm talking about the LGBTQ plus community, not Stand in Pride. I don't know where we go from that or how we come back from that. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. It's
Yeah.
scary though.
Yeah. And independent of a changing political climate globally, as far as I understand, the research is indicating that there's a loneliness epidemic, that more and more people are feeling lonely and they're feeling disconnected and they feel like they don't have a community. And I think it's just so interesting that in this moment, when more and more people feel lonely and it's been labeled an epidemic, there is this organization that's trying to fill that gap for some people.
Yeah, yeah, and that's basically what we're doing. And I say this a lot in videos that it can be something as simple as a text message, just saying, "How was your day?" That can change your mood and that can change your life to know that somebody actually cares enough about you to ask, "How was your day?" And, especially if you don't have anybody else in your life, to check up on you. So the cool thing about what I've done with Stand in Pride is it's even crossed over into the non-LGBTQ plus community. There is a group that I'm not part of. I'm a member, but I don't admin for that. But so many people were like, I'm not part of the community, but I need this too. That a couple of my friends were like, "Hey, can we start a group for that?" I was like, "Sure, I'll help you get started."
Yeah,
And they're connecting people outside the community for the same thing.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
If you and I talked 4 years ago and I said, "Oh, I'm starting a podcast about families," I would never have guessed that one of the primary topics of conversation I have in interviews like this is around grief and also around how to support others. Your
Mm.
organization is all about showing up, and you've given me one of the things I've heard text messages. I've heard show up for the little things like tying a tie or recipes, show up for the big moments like weddings and holidays. Do you have any advice for somebody who's saying, okay, my friend's lonely, or I'm seeing that they're going through some painful moments, or I just want to show up and be more present in the people I care about's lives? What recommendations do you have around showing up?
I will tell you, and I think it just depends on the personality type. For me, if somebody were to send me a text message and they knew something was going on with me and they would ask, how can I help you? I would say, I'm fine. I don't need anything.
Mm.
Come to my house, show up at my door, bring a pizza and some drinks or something, and be like, we don't have to talk, but I'm sitting here with you. And but certain personality types, you've got to kind of push yourself on them because they're never going to ask and they're never going to let you know. I'm one of those people. But I also can recognize when somebody needs that type of support. And, if it's not someone, um, a friend that's not close by that I can just show up at their door, I'm sending a message or I'm calling and I'm saying, I'm here. Tell me what you're doing or what's going on with you. We don't have to talk about the thing, if something happened, but just tell me what you're doing. How are you? So I think you have to learn different ways to deal with the different types of personalities because you can't always trust people when they say I'm fine.
That's true. That's true.
Don't trust me when I say I'm fine because typically I'm not. But yeah, I think and that comes with just getting to know somebody and understanding the little things that you can do that can change and maybe even lighten their mood. Barge in their house and open the curtains and let some sunshine in,
Yeah.
and just let them know that you're there for them. And that would mean more to me than anything. Just for someone to sit with me in silence and maybe watch TV or whatever. It doesn't have to be a big production, but just to sit in silence with somebody and let them know that you're there if they need that shoulder to cry on.
Mm, that's really beautiful. I do have this mental image of somebody barging into your house and throwing open the curtains and letting the sunshine in. Oh,
Yeah, I don't let myself get in that situation because I am prone to seasonal depression. So, and I recognize that in myself. And it took me a few years to figure it out, but I will get outside, kind of force myself to do that. So I don't sink into that depression. So, and I see it in other people dealing with the different types of personalities that come into my salon. I can pick up on things and how people react to certain questions or how they're just very withdrawn. So I think just spending time with people and getting to know them, you can pick up on those things when they don't have to say something's going on. You can read it on their face.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for all of this. This is just so beautiful. And I think you've created something really special here. I'm curious if you're open to talking a little bit about your own family. You mentioned partner of 25 years, a recent marriage to that partner, 2 kids, and now grandkids. Is that correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I I got married to a woman right out of high school. Growing up here in the South, Southern Baptist Church, all that, I believed that if I did the right thing, that everything would work out, and it didn't happen. I just made things worse. But I mean, it's such a cliche to hear for gay men trying to get married, trying to be straight, and at the time, I didn't really think I had a choice, honestly. And I tell people all the time, that's one reason that I do what I do now because I didn't have anybody who was living as an out person in my community to look up to when I was
Wow.
growing up. So there was no representation. There were gay people that I knew of that had left, but they never came back and they didn't come out till they left. But so when I got old enough, I decided, I'm going to be that person for young people in my community. And And 5 years ago, my husband and I, when we got married, we eloped. And a friend of ours is a photographer. So we were like, I kind of told him, my husband was like, when we do this, it's going on Facebook. Because my friend Josh, he has a Facebook page. He's a wedding photographer. And so they wanted to do this for us. And I'm like, okay, we're going to do this. And that was kind of like our outing, because close family and friends knew, obviously after like 19 years at that point. But that was like our public outing. And within the first 2 weeks, I had someone message me that came out to me. They didn't feel comfortable talking to anybody else. I had two parents message me because their child had come out to them, and they wanted to know how to handle it. What can they do to protect, but also support their child? So I told Donnie, my husband, I was like, it worked. I mean, even if nobody else comes to me, it worked for those three people. So that's kind of my origin story for, creating content and just being representation that I feel like would have made my life so different if I'd had that when I was younger. But and as far as the rest of my family, we co-parented the children, my ex-wife and I. And I am not very close with my son, but not because I'm gay. Sometimes their partners throw kinks into a relationship, and we'll just leave that at that. But my daughter and I are very close, and she has 3 little boys now. My dad and my mom are divorced, but I'm close with them. I was one of the lucky ones, and I think that's part of my drive to do what I'm doing for the community, because I realize the privilege I have. I never once worried about my parents, turning their back on me. I worried more about my community, the people that, I lived around. That's what scared me, as a young person, but not my parents. So
you're talking about not facing estrangement as a
right.
result.
Yeah. Like I never feared that. Like I've talked to a lot of young people who, they're like, I know when I come out, I'm going to need your organization. I never had that feeling that I would ever worry about my parents not being part of my life.
Yeah. Oh, what a privilege. We forget that that's a privilege, right?
Right.
You go through life every day and you know that there are certain privileges, whether you have access to financial resources or other things, but you forget that access to your family, whether because they're still alive or because they're choosing to be in your life, whatever's going on in your life, is one of the biggest privileges of all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think recognizing that and acknowledging it is important, for those of us who have that privilege.
What do you hope is different for your grandkids' generation?
I hope that people will just be seen as people, not based on how they look or who they love. They're just people. And I hope that I have some sort of influence in this world that I can make that happen for their generation.
Wow. I mean, you've already got 200,000 people who are trying to make that happen across the world, I think.
Well, there's actually more, because, that's just like on Facebook, because a lot of people don't use Facebook. So that's one reason that I've been trying to get the app built, because it will be everybody on the same platform. And that's been my biggest obstacle from day one, because like I still remember when I made the announcement on TikTok 3 years ago that, we have a new Facebook group for finding chosen family, and there are people in the comment section, Facebook. Oh, I don't want to be on Facebook. And I'm like, of course I went to the wrong place, but you can't satisfy everybody. But it was really the only safe space where, no other social media platform has like the private group setting that Facebook has. And so it wasn't that I was, really partial to Facebook. It was just, it had what we needed at the time.
Oh, I love Facebook groups. I don't go on Facebook for anything but the groups
Really?
I'm a member of, well, you probably don't have exposure to this, but in the fertility community, if you're going through infertility, there are
Mm.
groups that are so helpful and so resourceful. And the solo parent community, I'm a solo mom by
Oh,
choice. You can find so much. There's solo moms dating, there's solo moms in your city, there's solo moms who are doing this. I mean, and so I think it's one of the best places in the world to get support from strangers. So I
yeah.
understand
It
why you
is.
ended up
It
there.
is good for
Yeah.
that, but I've learned too that a lot of people, especially people that are estranged from their family, they are very guarded when it comes to social media. So they don't want to be easily accessible
Yeah.
by having a Facebook account, and so I understand that. And it can be a toxic place outside those groups. Like, so I've even got members that they joined Facebook just to be part of the group.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you don't have to have any friends. You don't have to add people. You don't even have to have a profile picture if you don't want one to be part of it. So,
Yep.
and we have moderators too that have literally found stand-in family for people that are not on Facebook. So they'll email me, and I will connect them with a moderator for the region where they're looking, and they'll post, I guess, kind of by proxy for them and connect them with people in their area. So we've done that a couple times. So we find workarounds to accommodate when we can.
That's beautiful. Let's talk about this app for a second. We've talked about your vision for it as being this one place, this one safe environment that you can find somebody to stand in as a family, as your chosen family, or show up for somebody as a chosen family member. But tell us a little bit more about the vision and what you're doing right now to make it a reality.
This app is like a dream come true for me. Um, within like the first 6 months of having the first group on Facebook, I realized it was not going to work forever because it did exclude a lot of people. So I started looking and had no clue. I don't know if you know, or maybe your listeners don't know what it costs to build an app. Holy cow! The average cost is $250 to $300,000 to build an app,
Brutal.
and I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" So I just kind of give up on the idea because I'm like, there's no way that, I'll ever be able to do that. But back in December, I was contacted by a guy who owns an app development company. And he's like, I just saw you on Instagram and I
Stop
think
it.
this would
That's
make a
amazing.
great app. And I'm like, you do? So his name is Jim. And we immediately hit it off. We had a Zoom meeting and he's like, my company can do this. But when we do it, I want to be part of it. I don't want to just do it for you. I want to be part of it. So we had, like, I've worked on this for 3 months. We had like weekly design meetings with Jim, who's the president, and Savannah, who was the creative director. And they took all of my ideas, things that I like about Facebook groups, things that I don't like, that I wish we had, you know, any kind of hardships or problems that we've run into with the Facebook groups. And we just put all of this brainstorming together and started creating this app. And from the very first image you see, I was able to be a part of that. And
It's so
what it was
cool.
like, I know it was it's such an honor to be part of that. Like, I have seen every screen on this app. It's fascinating. I'm not a tech person, but that's just so cool that every single screen I've got to see already before it's even built. But it's in production now. The smart people who write the code and do all that stuff are building it. But what this app's going to do is it'll be like a social media platform. But the cool thing about it is we will be in control of who is on it. So every single person that signs up to be part of this app will be verified. How they do that, I don't know. But the people that know how to do that, they know what they're doing. I just have to trust them. But they tell me there's several different ways because when you give permissions to,
Yeah.
when you download an app, they can, they know your identity, all that stuff. So we can kind of verify that the right people are there. So there won't, like, those of us in the community that have to worry about posting and getting hate comments from trolls, there won't be any trolls because everybody will be on there for the right reason. And I'm excited for that. But also, there's, for like I said, a lot of people that don't want to be on Facebook because they don't want to be found by their family. They don't have a place to post, things about their lives. So to be able to share like your wedding photos, a lot of people don't get to do that. So this will be a place where they can do that and get, those reactions that we hoped we would all get. And so I'm looking forward to that. But also, it's going to be a learning platform. From the very beginning, I was like, there has to be a section on this app for people to learn, because that's been one of our biggest obstacles with allies, especially coming to the group. And they're like, I want to be better and I want to learn, but you can't really come to a support group and ask the people who are needing support to educate you. So getting people, to understand that. But with an app, we'll be able to direct people, and we've been calling it Stand in Pride University. If anybody wants to sponsor this part of the app, I will name it after you. Just saying.
Okay.
But Stand in Pride University will be for the community, but also for our allies with resources and blog posts and to answer all those questions and help people. And hopefully, like I've had a lot of people interested in participating in this, from the point of view of people involved. A lot of people don't understand pronouns. So to have somebody in the community willing to make a video and explain it from their point of view sometimes will make all the difference. So I'm so excited for that. And to get other organizations in the community, like, Free Mom Hugs, Sarah Cunningham, she's a friend of mine, loved her pieces. It's a Rainbow Youth Project. Like, I want to pull all of my friends into this too. So we're a one-stop shop to get the support for anybody who needs it.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Given that you see so many people create chosen families and stand in for families and be a family in a maybe non-biological way, what does the word family mean to you?
What a hard question.
So
Is that why you saved it for last?
It is why I saved it for last. And I'll tell you, I've done about 100 of these interviews. And then somebody asked me once on a podcast, they're like, you asked this question to everyone else. What's your answer? And I was like, oh God, it's so hard.
Yeah, because family can be so many things. For me, it's just safety. It's a feeling of support and safety, I think. When I think of family, I think of, of just being safe and feeling loved and supported.
I like that one. So if an audience member is listening to this, they say, I want to provide support. I want to support and stand in, or I think I really need some love and support. I need to be part of this. I want to, download your app, or I want to go on Facebook. How does somebody access your groups? How do we find you?
Right now, you have to go to Facebook because that's the only place they're available. If you don't use Facebook, I'm sorry. Be patient. But go to Facebook and search Stand in Pride. You will find a list of, I think there's like 26 groups. We do have a public page that will make it easier too. You can go on the public page and I have pinned on there like the complete list with links of all the groups. So no matter where you are in the world, there is a group close to you, like literally almost everywhere. Japan's getting ready to come online, which is fascinating to me. I helped someone in Japan build a group. But we're hoping to launch this app like June, July. So you can follow along that journey if you want to learn about the app and like watch when it's available at standinpride.app.
And what about on social media? If we want to follow you on TikTok or Instagram, where do we find you?
Instagram and TikTok is _zombie_Dan.
Okay, awesome.
And I'm on Facebook as Daniel Blevins.
Thank you for what you're doing. It's really exciting, and I can't wait to get the app too.
Thank you for listening to Stork'd with your host, Julia Carroll. This podcast is changing the conversation around the ways people define and create family. If you like what you hear, please support us by sharing with friends and following on Instagram at Stork'd_podcast. We also always appreciate it when you rate and review us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. For more information, visit storkedpodcast.com to sign up for our newsletter. That's STORKD podcast.com.